Hey there guys, Mike here. Mike's DVDs and Blu-rays collection is back for another episode, and today guys, I'm going to flashback to my childhood with some Disney live action movies. These were movies made in the late 70s, basically, late 70s, early 80s, and the first one I want to talk about is well, actually, first, let's talk about Disney at this time. At this time, with Disney in the 70s and stuff, they were kind of at their lowest point of quality and productions and stuff as far as animation goes. Not a lot. Their animation style was really slipping and kind of got lazy or something. There's a lot of information on that, and until the mid to late 80s, Disney exploded to where they're at now, I guess, with animated movies like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that, put them back on top again. But towards the end of the 70s, and throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and I'm not sure in the 80s, but they did do some live action movies. You got Herbie, Love Bug, you got Treasure Island, you got different stuff, a lot of different things. I mean, they made tons of live action movies. And I remember this first one I'm going to talk about. This is, my mom worked at a drugstore when I was a little kid, and this was in the beginning of home video. This was probably 1984, and it was kind of like in an early strip mall. She worked in a drugstore. She was like the assistant manager or something. So, and their little video rental store popped up down there. In my area, there was no chain video stores yet. There was no Blockbusters, nothing like that. So there was all these mom and pop shops that popped up. Probably in my town, we had probably at least 5 ones, and we frequently went to about 3 of those 5. But this was one that was out of the way, and we never went to. I don't even think I may have went in there one time, but my mom went in there one day on her lunch break, and I don't know. She wasn't typically somebody that would go and just rent movies and want to see certain movies. It was mainly what the kids wanted and that. But she brought home some movies, and there was a movie starring Betty Davis. And we had a Beta Max player, so she rented a Beta Max thing, and this was a movie with Betty Davis, and I believe this came out in, I want to say 1980. But the movie I'm trying to talk about here is The Watcher in the Woods, and it's kind of I guess you could say it's kind of a creepy mystery thriller, suspenseful type of movie. I wouldn't exactly say it was a horror type movie, but it had a lot of atmosphere, a lot of creepiness about it. And I remember when I was about 7 when I saw this, that really dug it. Me and my sister, we really liked it a lot. We may have even rented it a couple times, but it was really cool because Mom brought this home, and we kind of, back then you didn't see movies that much because 1984, we didn't have cable yet. We had 3 channels, 3 main channels, and probably PBS, and occasionally it would pick up some other channels. But so we watched a lot of TV shows and cartoons, but not so many movies. I remember back then only when we rented stuff did we see movies. But The Watcher in the Woods, a pretty interesting movie. Betty Davis, it's got Carol Baker, David McCallum. Those actors, especially the kid actors, I'm not sure if Lynn Holly Johnson is who I want to say the girl is, but once you see her face, you recognize her. I guess as an 80s kid, and she was in all kinds of different stuff, but she was in that. And this was a movie directed by John Hull. Not a lot of little things that stick out on this, but pretty cool little movie. I mean, let me just read about it a little bit in case you've never heard of it. In this frightening and atmospheric thriller, when an American teenager joins her family in an English country home, she experiences strange and supernatural occurrences. Mrs. Elwood, played by Betty Davis, the kindly caretaker, knows the dark secret behind the happenings and prepares for the return of a young girl who died mysteriously some 30 years earlier. The Watcher in the Woods weaves a haunting, riveting tale that stays with you long after the explosive ending. But before I picked this up, I did a little bit of research on it. You know, of course, you start with your Wikipedia info and do some other stuff on it. And from what I understand, this movie just kind of ends. See, I don't remember it. I watched it the other night, and I don't remember the ending. I must have dozed off or something, but just because it was late, not because of the movie. But apparently, it was not finished really, from what I read. So it was kind of this kind of certain kind of ending on it. It wasn't exactly what they were going for. It was something like that. But anyways, when I was 7, I couldn't tell those little things. But still, even to this day, it's got some atmosphere. It's very interesting. And Betty Davis, late in her career, 1980 here. She had been doing movies for about 50 years at this point. So yeah, very, very cool, very interesting. This is a DVD from Disney. And I've always kind of wanted to re-see it, or rewatch it and see it again, so picked it up. Next up, this is based on a Ray Bradbury book or short story. I recently got the Illustrated Man on Blu-ray with Rod Steiger, which is based on some various works, short stories by Ray Bradbury. So it kind of made me think about this one. Now, this is a title that I would always see. I would always see the name of this and but never watched it. So I went ahead and picked this up. This is Something Wicked This Way Comes. And pretty interesting. It's about this like evil circus comes to town, and one of the interesting things about it is it has Jason Robards in it. He's pretty good. Jonathan Pryce, really good also. This was before he did Brazil in 1985, so he was still kind of maybe known, not so known at that time. It's got Diane Ladd. Pam Grier is in it. That's another reason to see it. This is directed by Jack Clayton, which I think Jack Clayton did. Didn't he do The Innocents? Or he did some really good movies from the 60s, like a very kind of a gothic horror movie of some. I think that's what he did. I'm not 100%. But yeah, the screenplay was actually done by Ray Bradbury based on his novel and everything. So this is one of Ray Bradbury's most popular and intriguing novels of good and evil. Evil comes to life in this spine-tingling motion picture. On a grim and gusty October day in Greentown, Illinois, two young boys encounter a distressed man who foretells danger blowing their way. Soon after, the town is visited by a seductive stranger named Mr. Dark and his Pandemonium Carnival. Terrifying things begin to happen, and when the adventurous boys stumble upon the carnival's deadly and destructive secret, beware, something wicked this way comes. And frightening surprises follow. So there you go, pretty good. I watched it. I wasn't blown away by it after all these years. I need to watch it again. But I believe if I would have saw this when I was like 7 or 8, I would have loved it. Maybe nowadays we're so spoiled with horror movies and anthology series and on TV shows and stuff like that it's almost very tame, I guess, by these standards. So, but really interesting. Pretty good movie actually, and I'll definitely try to rewatch this. I'll probably give it another spin during October, during Halloween. And finally, guys, this is a movie that I know I've seen a few times when I was a kid. We may have rented it. I want to say we did rent this one too as a little kid. But this is Walt Disney's The Black Hole. The Black Hole, after Star Wars blew up on the scene in 1977, all the studios were scrambling to make their big sci-fi movie to kind of, I don't know if compete with it or what, but I believe this came out in 1979. Actually, I saw a documentary about this. It must be from a Blu-ray edition or something, because it's not on here, but I saw it on YouTube or something, and they talked about all the work that went into pre-planning this and coming up with the characters and costumes and the actors and the effects and everything. And watching it compared to Star Wars, still Star Wars is leaps and bounds above this. This one comes off a little cheaply. You can kind of tell it's a little cheaply made on a budget. Some early sci-fi or CGI type effects, probably early green screen technology and practical effects and stuff. But this was directed by Gary Nelson, and it's got a John Barry musical score. It's got a pretty cool cast. We've got Ernest Borgnine, Yvette Mignot, Joseph Bottoms, Robert Forster, Anthony Perkins, and Maximilian Schell round out the cast. But it's kind of a little bit, kind of reminds me at times of Forbidden Planet. Of course, you got the Star Wars, stuff going on with it. But around this time, on TV, we had Battlestar Galactica, and we had Buck Rogers. Was it Into the 21st Century or whatever that was on? So Star Wars really made a big influence on movies and television, moving forward and everything, especially around that time. But Black Hole, I don't know, it's not bad. It's really not bad. It's definitely a movie you want to see widescreen. This is a 2:3:5:1 aspect ratio, and you can really tell. And this is a DVD upgrade standard. I guess was it standard definition by now, which had a pretty decent picture. It wasn't that good, but kind of shows some of the effects, some of the shortcomings of it and everything, but overall pretty good. I mean, the cast working together, all of them gelling together, it didn't seem like they quite meshed for some reason, I mean, at this time, a far superior movie would have been Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien and stuff and everything. But this is more for all audiences, family audiences and everything like that. But yeah, just some of the robots and stuff are just kind of cheesy and everything. But yeah, it's a big, this is Disney's answer to Star Wars and everything. And even Star Trek the movie came out in, 79 also. So by 1979, like, everybody was racing to the top of the mountain to try to do their version of Star Wars, basically. So, but yeah, The Black Hole, I mean, I guess out of these three, I would rate this one number 2, Watching the Woods number 1, and Something This Way, Wicked This Way Comes is number 3. But they're all movies to rewatch. Sometimes I wish my kids were a little bit younger. I could put these on for them, and maybe they would discover them the same way I did. But anyways, it was a little stroll down memory lane with Disney and some of the stuff we rented. Of course, back then we rented, Herbie the Love Bug and different stuff like that. I remember liking Herbie Goes Bananas as a kid, and we rented that and stuff and everything. So, but there you go, guys. Just a few little Disney live action, movies from the late 70s, early 80s. So, and Something Wicked This Way Comes, I believe that came out in 1983, by the way. So there you go. Let me know in the comments what you think about these movies. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Any little antidote? Any little bits of information that I totally missed probably, but let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to check my channel out and subscribe. So until next time, guys, I'm Mike. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.